Desperation or decisiveness? That is the question I would like to think about today in trying to evaluate what seems to be Justin Langer's decision to inaugurate a new era in Australia's Test cricket opening duo of David Warner and Will Pucovski. It seems more likely than it did yesterday, and definitely more likely than it did the day before, that those two individuals will be replacing Matthew Wade and Joe Burns as Australia's opening batting partners for the Sydney Test match and for the foreseeable future. Hopefully, for as long as David Warner plays Test cricket, at least, because in Will Pucovski and David Warner, Australia finally may have found an opening pair that has the talent, the technique, to not just survive, but also to attack quality bowling attacks like that India possesses currently. The kind of disciplined bowling attack that India currently possesses, a bowling attack that has not let Australia sniff 200 above after batting 4 times in this test series. So, what should we expect from the third test match with regards to the way in which Australia goes about playing this match? Well, first of all, the first 10 overs are going to be key. How does Australia come out to bat in those first 10 overs? They don't necessarily have to be aggressive too much. They can play a little cautiously. They can even go at about 20 runs an over, but it's about the rhythm of the batting that I'm really looking forward to. The problem with Australia's cricket is not necessarily that they play too cautiously, is that their batting lacks rhythm altogether. Rhythm is not about scoring at 4 runs and over every single over. And rhythm is definitely not about scoring at 10 runs and over or just to come out and like go down the track and make some kind of a statement to the opposition's bowling attack, but the kind of shot selection, the outrageous shot you play in the first over, something like that. So, what do I mean by rhythm? Rhythm means the ability to maintain a certain energy on the pitch. You have to have batters who are willing to take quick singles, not just make loud calls about no, no run, but actually to be decisive in their batting movements. Okay. So it's not just about leaving the ball and making a no verbal call. That's just adding, I think, too much energy. I'm referencing here to Marnus Labuschane's, loud no calls for no reason, which he actually stopped doing. You got to have a certain level of calm on the pitch, and in that calm, you have to demonstrate a certain ability to sense the moment. You have to be willing to recognize what balls do I want to pounce on, what balls do I want to defend with respect, but never at any moment let the bowling dictate the terms. The best example of a team that does that really well is New Zealand's cricket team. You don't see any kind of brash hitting in that batting order. Kane Williamson is all class, no doubt about that. But my point is, you don't see any kind of batsman who has a reputation of being overly aggressive or someone who plays outlandish cricket strokes. There's no Steve Smith who like just plays a cricket shot that like nobody has ever taught before, and there's no one like even a David Warner who's known for being a kind of an aggressive, in your face kind of player. You have a bunch of players who are very well tempered, very mellow, very quiet. They just go about their business and then they play a game of cricket and then they go home. But they go about their business in a way that is absolutely devastating. They spend a lot of time on the crease, but they always change the momentum of the game. So, for instance, New Zealand against Pakistan, they were 70 odd for three at the end of something like 25th over. Their run rate was actually far beneath and far inferior to Pakistan's run rate. Pakistan was hovering at about 3.6 runs and over. New Zealand was hovering at about 2.6 runs and over. A huge difference in the run rate of the two teams. So Pakistan actually showed more aggression in their batting than New Zealand did, even though both teams were kind of struggling at 70 odd for 3 or 4 wickets down. But what New Zealand did so great is that they were able to just collect themselves, leave the balls that needed to be left, but very slowly, but very poignantly, they were able to shift the balance. The bowlers became the defensive players on the field, the batters became the aggressive players on the field, and their aggression comes from scoring loads and loads and loads of runs. There is something back crushing about facing 300 plus balls and scoring 150 plus runs. which is far more effective than someone who just comes out with some kind of a purpose and gets out at 40 odd runs, having faced only 45 odd balls. So my point is very simple, which is that David Warner doesn't have to come out and try to attack Jasprit Bumrah in the first spell of Bumrah's bowling to make a point. Look, Australia is going to be aggressive now. Australia is not going to cow down to India's discipline. But what David Warner and Will Pucovski in particular need to do as a pair is that they need to be able to play long, but to have a certain tempo in their batting while playing long. Playing long with rhythm is not the same thing as playing 103 overs and scoring just 200 runs. Playing long with rhythm means that at certain moments of the game, you might be scoring just 50 runs in 25 overs, having scored at only 2 runs an over. But then because you've spent so much time on the crease, you're now rotating the strike at a much quicker pace. You're now finding gaps in the field. You're pouncing on anything short. And all of a sudden, things are switching from bowler being dominant to batsman being dominant. Clearly, I don't expect India to leak 650 plus runs to Australia because India's bowling is just better than Pakistan's bowling. But however, I do expect Australia to show a certain rhythm in their batting as a result of this new combination of Pucovski and Warner. What do the two bring to the table? Well, with Warner, we all already know what he brings. He brings a lot of energy to the table. He's going to take singles. He's not just going to make loud calls of no runs, but he's actually going to bat in a certain way which he knows how to bat in Australia. He excels test batting in Australia. His record in Australia is fabulous. It sometimes can mean scoring a tons of runs right off the bat, but even then, even with Warner, even the innings in which he scored a century within the first session, he started off kind of reserved, even in that test innings. So Pucovski, on the other hand, what we have seen already is that he is somebody who can play a long innings. He is somebody who can bat, and be willing to participate in a colossal first wicket batting partnership. I've seen that him done. He do that with Marcus Harris for for Victorian cricket squad, not once but multiple times over this current recently concluded Sheffield Shield season. With David Warner, he now has a partner who is as willing to score for a long period of time, but has a reputation in international cricket as well. So I think Justin Langer's move to induct both of them is a decisive rather than a desperate move. Desperation would critics who call it desperate have reasons that is basically medical reasons, with Pucovski having 9 concussions and David Warner having a groin injury. But I don't consider that to be desperation because at certain moments you have to have changes made to your batting order, to your cricket team, because you realize that you're reaching at a precipice where you have to make a statement to change the direction, the graph of your batting side. Your team's batting has over the past 2 years been pretty average. It is the time right now, this Sydney Test match, the first Test match of this new year, to change how Australia goes about batting in Test cricket. And it requires something more than just expecting or depending on Steve Smith's genius. Although that genius is himself the most fun batsman to watch, nevertheless, you need these other individuals to show up and you need to figure out your combination. This decision had to be have made right now. You can say give them more time to heal themselves, but you know what? David Warner is a warrior. Uh, you're a professional cricket player, you're always going to be bound to play with some niggles and some injuries. You don't always get to the luxury of being 100%. He knows how to handle his body. He knows what his body's capable of doing. And so is Will Pucovski, because we talk about the mind and the brain, and concussions are definitely the nastiest injuries a athlete can have because of its long lasting repercussions on our emotions, on how we deal with each other. They're serious deal. But if the neurosurgeon says that despite the ninth concussion, the man is capable of starting his test career, then what's the point of waiting any longer? It doesn't mean that if he were to debut 2 or 3 months later, that he's going to have 1 or 2 or 3 fewer concussions than he already has. He's still going to have a history of 9 concussions. That history doesn't go away as a result of spending more time away from the game. He's mentally ready. He might not have been mentally ready last year or the year before, despite not having any recent concussions. But he now is at a position where he knows his mind as well as David Warner knows his groin. So these are two really mature individuals, although at very different stages of their career. One about to debut, the other probably on sort of the last quarter of his international career. But nevertheless, one is a righty, one is a lefty, one has luscious blonde locks, the other doesn't really is known for his hair. Um, but I am very excited to look forward to this opening pair. On India's side, they're probably going to have Shubman Gill and Rohit Sharma to open for them. So really, we have two rising superstars, and then we have two individuals who are, one of the best limited over opening batters in world cricket over the past 11 years or so. So we have stars from the last decade and stars for the future decade on both sides. It's going to be a mouth-watering contest. It is even Stevens. Um, both teams have made statements in the first two test matches. India is certainly has a certain kind of an edge because they've won more sessions, they've won more days than Australia. But on the other hand, Australia is a proud team. They have a great bowling attack. Their big issue is their batting. If the batting does click, how will India respond to that is something we have not seen yet. India has dominated Australia, I believe, in this last series and this current series when it comes to India bowling Australia. But if Australia's batters can actually make a move, can offer some solutions to the questions India has posed to them, then I don't know how India will respond in to that kind of challenge from Australia. We just do not know that yet. Not that I doubt India can, it's just that I don't know the answer to that yet. So, fingers crossed, I believe that in terms of strategically thinking about this current test series based on what we have seen in the past, India definitely has a certain edge over Australia with regards to the frailty of Australia's batting and the discipline of India's bowling. But if Australia is able to build rhythm as a result of Warner and Pucovski's opening partnership, then we are going to see some fabulous cricket, regardless of the result, either way. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my show and share your comments. I'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you.